Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, Nate the Great, back with another one, another live stream. You know what I'm saying? We're going to go ahead, let people start filling in, funneling in. I know this is an out of the blue live stream, so I don't expect everybody to tune in immediately, but that's fine. That gives me time to finish setting up. Let's finish setting up here. Make sure you guys go ahead, drop something in the comments, letting me know that you're here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we got a whole lot of stuff to talk about on the docket today. This is just gonna be
Could this be it? Oh shit, that's the plant. Holy fuck, we found the plant. Holy fuck, okay. Holy fucking shit. Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy.
Dang, that look good.
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man.
This has just been on my mind. I felt like I needed to make this video and talk about this and just get it out there, so that way you guys aren't left in the dark, and that you guys are kind of in the know of like what's going on with me personally, and that way, like, if anything comes up, it's not, you know, too crazy, not too out of the ordinary.
$13.99 for a goddamn watermelon.
For $11 for shredded cheese? Are you kidding me?
You know, that's organic or whatever, but still, you have 96.4 for $8 a fucking pound. What the fuck's going on?
12 motherfucking 99. I know these ain't the damn.
Tell me I'm tripping. When the fuck did the cereal become $8?
Bro, $3.50 fucking cents for this, bro. This used to be 98 cents.
Like spaghetti sauce, and it's $11.99. Wow.
That's crazy. $10.99 for some fucking eggs.
Now this has got to be a freaking typo. Because $10 for a bag of apples.
These tiny ass pizzas are $1.48. I remember a time where those little pizzas were like 25 cents a piece. You get 4 for $1, but they were called Mr. P's pizza.
$13.99.
So the other day, I tried doing absolutely nothing. And I want to be specific about what I mean by nothing. No reading, no scrolling, no viewing anything, no intentional rest, not even meditation. Just sitting and doing nothing. So basically existing. I guess you could say forcibly inducing boredom. And this lasted about 11 seconds before I felt like I was being audited. Okay, in truth, it really wasn't that bad. It's actually fairly easy for me to do nothing because I've always had this rather unpopular habit of prioritizing free time over chasing money and materialism and so forth. But that feeling of being audited does still come up sometimes because, well, this is the world we live in now. I'm the type who's always needed a lot of time and space in order to function somewhat properly. However, I am fully aware that we do live in a society that does everything in its power to eliminate the possibility of boredom or free time, as you've probably noticed. I've noticed these days that stillness doesn't feel like rest anymore. It feels like you're falling behind, as if there's a counter running someplace, and you're letting it get ahead of you, and you're not entirely sure what the counter is even counting, but you feel pretty certain that you're losing whatever it is. And I'm not quite sure when doing nothing started feeling like a moral failing in society. I mean, it's probably been this way forever because, you know, the anxiety of the human condition more or less requires you to feel like you always have to be doing something. And of course, that usually means, you know, especially in this day and age, consuming in some way or another. But it does seem to me that these days, this is worse. It's worse than ever because we're basically being worked and distracted to death. And, you know, the vast majority of people now have this low-grade inability to just exist in a room without also doing something in that room. Because every single minute has to be justified now. I mean, even your very existence has to be justified, right? And I think that's the part that has crept up on us. Rest used to be rest. We at least had that much. But now it has to be earned. And it has to be documented. And of course, if possible, it has to be turned into content. Because, you know, we live in these two realities now. And I don't think the reason this happened is necessarily personal. We're not all just individually weak-willed. I think we've been trained deliberately and very efficiently for reasons that I'll get into in this video. So, okay, somewhere along the way, this whole busyness thing became a personality. And I don't mean that as a metaphor. I mean, people now lead with this, right? I mean, you ask someone how they're doing, and before they've even answered the question, they just tell you how busy they are. As if the busyness is the most relevant thing about them. And, you know, being fully scheduled is like the same thing. It's the equivalent of being successful and, I guess, fully alive nowadays. And I get it, sort of, because productivity has become, it's become identity. And it's become identity in a way that is pretty hard to overstate. Because what you do is who you are in our society. And if you're not doing something, visibly doing something, and measurably, preferably with some kind of output, whatever that might be, then the question of who you are begins to get a little uncomfortable. So there was a time when rest was something that you did so you could work. But these days, rest is something that needs justification before you're allowed to do it. And even then, it has to be the right kind of rest. Purposeful rest with a, you know, like a recovery metric attached to it so you can demonstrate that the rest was somehow productive. I saw something recently, and I genuinely could not tell if this was satire. Someone describing their weekend as a dopamine detox with flexible parameters. Now, to me, that sounded like something a burned out robot would have said before collapsing face first into their standing desk. And, you know, I wonder where this actually comes from, because I don't think people are naturally like this, are they? I don't think that there's like a factory setting on a human that's set to constant anxious motion, you know? I think that gets installed later on at somehow. And this happens within a culture that has spent a long time telling people that their value is inseparable from their output. So what's happening is the culture is feeding us this lame narrative that rest is a reward, not a right. And, you know, it's telling us that the person who sleeps 8 hours a night is leaving something on the table that the person who sleeps 6 hours has to pick up, which I find to be such a convoluted and manipulative implication. Max Weber wrote about this over a century ago, and his argument was that Western culture basically fused work with moral virtue so completely and thoroughly, going all the way back to Calvinist theology, that idleness, it didn't just become unproductive, it became sinful. What's that saying? Idle hands do the devil's work. And I think about that because it means that the guilt you feel when you're doing nothing, it's not really a modern invention. It's just been updated for modern times. So instead of the church bell, now we have, the app notifications. And it's the productivity system instead of the confession booth. It's basically the same mechanism, but it's just different marketing or whatever. So nobody's putting a gun to our heads and forcing us to run this hard. At this point, we're doing this voluntarily because we've absorbed the logic of the system so thoroughly that it feels like we think it's our own ambition that's driving us, which is, I guess, when you think about it, that's a more sophisticated form of control than anything that came before it. I mean, what's the point of a whip if people just do it to themselves, right? So the busyness, it's not entirely our fault. And I feel like that needs to be said before anything else, because otherwise this just turns into another one of those, you should manage your own, your time better. One of those lectures, which this is not that. Because, look, it's not just you. There's something built around this, and it's constructed by a system that makes sure that you can never quite come to a full stop. And I think what's strange is this doesn't feel aggressive. And somehow that's I guess what it feels like, it's normal. And that's how you know it's working. So, okay, you sit down just for a second, just to breathe or something, and somehow that's the exact moment that your phone lights up. Not 3 minutes before or a few minutes after, right then. Like it's been watching you wait for stillness so it can interrupt it. Yeah. It's creepy, right? And then you open it, obviously, because of course you do. And now you're in the scroll zone, which of course doesn't end. And there's no place where it stops and suggests, all right, buddy, that's enough for you. Go be a person again. Because why would it? That would be terrible for business, right? So instead, it just keeps feeding you things, just enough to hold your attention, but not quite enough to actually satisfy it, of course. And somewhere in the background, there's an algorithm that's been studying you for years. And it's figuring out exactly how to keep you in that state. Not quite overwhelmed or bored, just, I guess, slightly off balance, slightly restless. So you're engaged just enough so that leaving the situation feels harder than staying in it. And after a while, it starts to feel like this is just how life is now. Like the constant motion is coming from you, even though it isn't. Now, the thing is, you're probably not that bad at focusing. It's just that you've been psychologically waterboarded by notifications since approximately 2009. And I think what really bothers me most about this is how deliberate it is. You know, there are entire teams of people, very smart, very well-paid people, who it's their job to figure out how to make sure you never put the phone down. Which is why now you're watching your phone while taking a shit. I don't think we really understand how invasive this really is on our lives. We've just gotten so used to this. I mean, it's somebody's job somewhere to make stillness and silence feel so uncomfortable that reaching for the screen feels like relief. Which it does. Because it's an addiction. And I find that to be more than a little disturbing. I mean, I see a fair amount of comments under my videos saying, well, there's two types in this regard. Either they're agitated by how slow I speak, so they watch the video on 3x speed or whatever. Or, and this group is much larger, thankfully, they're very appreciative of my slower pacing with the moments of silence and the sense of space. and, you know, the lack of the jump cuts and all the usual stuff you see on YouTube videos. And I get the very strong impression that people are craving stillness and quiet, even if they're not really completely aware of it yet. So there is this interesting book written by Tim Wu called The Attention Merchants, where he traces the whole history of this. I guess the way human attention became the commodity that the entire media and advertising economy is running on now. And his argument is that this didn't actually start with Silicon Valley. It goes back further than that. But what Silicon Valley did was it made it personal. So Silicon Valley made it something that follows you into every room of your life, including the bathroom, which is, that's a level of access that previous generations of attention merchants could only dream about. And the thing about attention is that, you know, calm, settled, quietly satisfied people are terrible for engagement, because nobody's making money off of you sitting in a chair feeling relaxed and feeling okay about your life. That's just a glitch in the system. And the system runs on the gap between where you are and where it says you're supposed to be. So this is the space between your life and the version of your life that you should apparently be living according to their standards. And if you keep that gap alive, then you keep the scrolling alive. So the restlessness isn't incidental. It's the product. And, you know, personally, I find that actually somewhat clarifying in a grim sort of way, because it means the inability to sit still. It's not a personal failing. It's the intended outcome of an enormous amount of capital and engineering where you've been optimized for endless distraction, which doesn't really fix anything, of course, but it does mean the problem probably isn't you. Okay, if you haven't seen the film Perfect Days, there may be a few spoilers ahead here. Fair warning. So there's a Tokyo-based film that came out in 2023 called Perfect Days. And the main character, a man named Hirayama, cleans public toilets for a living. And it's not a side hustle. He doesn't have a podcast about it. He doesn't have a morning routine video that he made called How I Optimized My Toilet Cleaning Workflow for Maximum Personal Fulfillment. He just has a full-time job cleaning public toilets. And then he goes home. He reads a paperback book, takes photographs of mostly trees with a film camera, makes coffee the same way he does every day, and then he gets up and, he does it all again. And the film's not about him trying to escape this life. It's not about feeling bad for him. And it's not building toward some moment where he finally gets discovered or validated or something. The whole point is that there is no arc. There's just the days, the repetition, the present moment. So it's just a man who has somehow arrived at a relationship with his own existence that doesn't require constant renegotiation. And I find that deeply unsettling in the best possible way. Because the first instinct is to feel slightly sorry for him. Because you look at his routine and you can't help but to think, well, is this it? Doesn't he want more out of life? Shouldn't he have a 5-year plan, or at least a LinkedIn profile where people can feel concerned for him, at least in a professional context? And the instinct, that instinct, I think that's the tell. That discomfort with his situation is really the whole essay. Because what Hirayama has, and what I think a lot of people have lost without really noticing, is he has a life that doesn't need to perform itself. He's not curating anything. He's not optimizing anything. He's not measuring the morning against how the morning could theoretically be. He's just in it. Schopenhauer had this observation that human beings basically oscillate perpetually between desire and boredom. And that when we're not frantically chasing something, we are miserable from the wanting. But then, when we actually finally get the thing, we're almost immediately bored, and then we start reaching for the next thing. And, well, his conclusion was basically that most of human activity is just like an elaborate boredom avoidance process, which you might see as a pretty dark perspective, I guess, understandably. But, have you been on the internet lately? I mean, what Schopenhauer said tracks. And I think about Hirayama in that context because he's essentially doing the thing that Schopenhauer identified as the hardest thing. He stepped off the oscillation somehow, and he didn't do it because he got everything he wanted. He just stopped the chasing. And I think that thing, I think the thing that makes his life look so strange to most people is his contentment with, his contentment in spite of the toilet cleaning. I mean, we don't really have a framework for that anymore. Because in our culture, contentment reads as a sort of failure or delusion. And the gap, the one that the algorithm depends on, contentment closes that gap. And closed gap is bad for business. So instead, we pathologize it. And we call it giving up. Lack of ambition and all that. And Hirayama doesn't seem particularly impressed with any of that, which already makes him more psychologically stable than most of the internet, in my opinion. So, all right. So here's the thing about slowing down. I think when you try to slow down in our society, it's kind of rebellious. I mean, it is rebellious, really. It's just a non-confrontational version of it. Because in the attention economy, which is what we are in, and the whole architecture of engineered restlessness, these things require your participation to function. And every time that you just don't participate, something small but real happens. It's not a revolution or anything. It's just a withdrawal of consent that nobody really notices except you. And it feels insignificant, but it really isn't. There's a fear underneath all of this that I want to name, because I think this fear, it drives more behavior than people want to admit. And it's the fear that if you slow down, you'll just disappear. And that if you stop posting and you stop producing and, being visible and active and engaged, people will forget you exist. Which, to be fair, some of them will. Honestly, most of them will. But here's the thing about that. They were already kind of doing it, because the feed and the scroll moves a lot faster than you think. And trust me, you were never as present in anyone's mind as the algorithm would have you believe. Because visibility isn't the same as mattering. And I think we've spent a lot of time confusing those two things. Hirayama is invisible. He has no followers. Nobody's tracking his content calendar or analyzing his engagement metrics. He uses a flip phone. And he listens to cassettes in his car. And he seems perfectly fine with this. More than fine, actually. He seems, in my opinion, deeply content. Like he's someone who knows himself and knows where he is. He comes across as untethered and free in a way that most of us have lost or have never even known. I think very few people are living now without the toll that comes with our current technology. As amazing as the technology can be, we're also shackled to it. Our privacy is gone. Our identities are all being collected and analyzed and stored in, some giant database somewhere where algorithms will determine our usefulness and our threat level to the system. And then, we'll all be given a score. So I guess, what does any of this look like from a practical perspective? And don't worry, I'm not about to tell you to delete all your apps and move into a hut in the mountains. As appealing as that does sound, that's just another kind of performance, right? I mean, the person who makes some big public announcement that they're quitting social media, I mean, yeah, they're still doing the thing, just with extra steps. What I'm talking about is something smaller and less impressive. I would call it small but mighty. And this is probably why it works. So, things like not filling every tiny gap. For example, the 2 minutes waiting for coffee where you'd normally reach for the phone. Just not reaching for it. Just letting those 2 minutes be 2 minutes. And I know it sounds embarrassingly, almost stupidly small. I get it. But it also turns out to be surprisingly difficult. And that should probably tell you something about the current state of affairs. Or, okay, how about just taking a walk with no destination? No 24-hour news cycle. No fitness tracker logging your effort. Just walking. Being a flesh and blood human. Moving through physical space with no quantifiable reason. The establishment finds this sort of thing baffling. I find the establishment finding it baffling kind of funny, actually. And look, you don't have to, disappear into the woods or wherever. You can just not open Slack for 6 minutes. Start small. Don't scare yourself. And don't scare the system too much either, because, if too many people figure this out at once or do this at once, somebody in a very nice office somewhere is going to have a very bad quarter. And we wouldn't want that to happen, now would we? All right, so I want to come back to where we started. The 11 seconds of nothing and that audit feeling, and how doing nothing immediately produced this low buzz of wrongness, like I'd violated some agreement that I didn't remember signing. And I've been thinking about what that feeling actually is, because I don't think it's guilt. I think it's closer to what happens when you've been running a program for so long that it stopped feeling like a malfunction. Something inside you flags it and says, okay, this isn't what we do. Get back to the motion. Lao Tzu wrote about this in the Tao Te Ching. The concept of effortless action, Or I guess more accurately, the wisdom of knowing when not to act. And the concept, it's not inertia or non-action. It's more like the intelligence of water. Water doesn't force anything, right? It just finds the path that's there, and somehow it gets where it's going. Which probably sounds like a profoundly useless concept if you have a quarterly report coming up or whatever. But stay with it. Alan Watts spent most of his life trying to explain to Westerners that the compulsive doing, that we all are stuck in, the inability to just be somewhere without improving it or documenting it or, extracting something from it. It was a kind of chronic anxiety that masquerades as ambition. Now, I'm paraphrasing here, but I think what Watts was saying is that we've confused the map for the territory, or the menu for the meal, something like that. Anyway, I think we spend our lives eating menus and wondering why we're still hungry. Kiriyama isn't eating the menu. That's the whole film. And I find myself returning to that image because it represents something that I think most people have stopped believing is still available. That, a person can just be inside their life without performing it, without the gap. So I'm just letting myself sit in a chair, looking out a window, watching a bird do something unremarkable in a tree. And yes, I've reached that age where I'm noticing birds now. I even have a pair of binoculars. God help me. But, in doing this, I'm not having any breakthroughs or clarity. There's no problems to be solved. There's no urge to pull out my phone and capture it for the alternate reality. Nothing happens. It's unproductive and it's liberating. I think this practice of allowing yourself to sometimes just do nothing, it's almost a form of meditation without it being a meditation. I see it as a way to reconnect with your own personal humanity. Because, without our humanity, we're just a bunch of zombies, right? You get a few minutes here and there to be unplugged and untethered person sitting in a chair, looking at a bird or whatever. And the system has absolutely no use for that. Which, for reasons I'm still working out, I guess. And whatever the case, it feels to me like exactly enough. No more, no less. All right. I believe that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening.
So for me, I want to make this the last time I'm talking about like TKO related stuff. I want to just get back to reacting to the wrestling content, the storylines. I actually want to make some AEW videos. I got some AEW content coming, but of course me and OG gonna do our Backlash reaction right after Backlash, so y'all get ready for that. But I'm definitely trying to crack out some AEW videos. But this is crazy, bro. Y'all banning people's Instagrams and all that type of reactions. You taking down old reactions. You're banning people's whole page. My G, they gotta use their backup page. I never thought to have a backup page. I might need to do that, but luckily I'm not really a reaction channel. Even on Instagram, like if I use a clip from WWE, it's 5 seconds. That's fair use, and then I give my own spill, and they probably not paying attention to me anyway. But you know what's crazy about this? What's crazy about this is they're banning people who actually was saying fairly positive things about WWE for the most part, in my opinion. For the most part, they're banning people who were, you know, fairly saying positive things and just literally reacting like, oh, that's crazy. Oh, what? Roman back. Oh, like, why are you banning people like that? And you're banning people that's giving commentary, but the commentary is not even negative. Now, if they came after certain people, I'm not going to say who, because I don't want them to come after us, me included. Okay, I guess I could see it, but this seems money motivated. And what makes it more slimy, shout out to my dog, Hear These Thoughts. If I didn't say that in the beginning of the video, because he talked about it on his YouTube channel as well. Make sure y'all go, you know, check his video out as well, because he's the first person that brought it up, and I was like, oh, word, they really are. And then I went on Instagram and I started seeing they're using these people's reactions, or they've used these people's reactions, and of course didn't shout them out, didn't give them their @ name, didn't pay them, of course. Maybe they invited them to a 2K event, or maybe invited them to a show, but they're literally using these people's reactions, and you're banning them. People who make money doing this, people who got a whole platform doing this. Man, listen, bro, man, y'all must not know, bro. Y'all must not know, bro. If they try to take my joint away, I'm going to be furious, bro. I would try to get some lawyers involved. Probably wouldn't work, but bro, imagine you built this from the ground up. You love wrestling, and look how wrestling doing you, bro. Just, like I said, I don't want to talk about these people no more as far as TKO, Endeavor, all that. I want to move on. I want to get back to the wrestling. I want to get back to the storylines, because y'all doing my boy Austin Theory kind of nasty, if you ask me. And AEW, I'm coming for you, nigga. I'm at work, I can't be saying crazy things, but AEW, I'm definitely coming, you know, to make some content, you know, about AEW and things like that. But man, listen, man, it's all those creators who might have lost their stuff, or had to go back and delete old reactions, or lost their Instagram pages, and hopefully not YouTube. That's because, you know, Instagram, you only get paid. You might have branded content and advertising deals and stuff like that, but if people lose their YouTube channel, I would be more so sympathetic to that. I mean, I'm sympathetic to both, but losing your YouTube channel is nasty, bro. I would be pissed. So, you know, I'm gonna try to stay out the way, and not try to give too much of my thoughts on these, you know, because I'm trying to stay out the way, man. I'm trying to chill with my folks, bro. We got more content to make, bro. I'm about to start cranking out that AEW content. Tony Khan would never. Tony Khan would never, bro. Like this is nasty, bro. Like, this is absolute trash and nasty. I'm just sitting here walking around my office on my break, and I'm just like, you can't make this stuff up, bro. Like, you can't make this stuff up, bro. Like, this is really insane. I really don't have a lot to say, guys. Like once I seen people's Instagram clips, because they going crazy, they getting shared all over, and they reached my attention. And then, like I said, shout out to my dog, Hear These Thoughts, who covered this on his YouTube channel. That's why I saw, you know, more of a breakdown. It's really disheartening, and it's really disgusting. TKO, man, you're bothering people that have influence, yes, but at the end of the day, do content creators, do we really move the needle that much to scare y'all? Are y'all really mad we getting a little bit of coins and pennies, bro? Even if content creator making 5K to 10K a month, that's nothing compared to what TKO and WWE making. So you really want to shut them out that bad? But I promise you, they're going to use people's reactions, though. People, like I said, I don't know if you can't legally do it because you're reacting to their stuff, especially if you want Twitch and stuff like that. It's very weird, but at the end of the day, bro, something got to be done. Something got to be done. And these content creators, bro, if I'm a content creator and they took down my stuff, bro, I would highly consider jumping ship. I know WWE makes the most money. That's why I cover them a lot. And because I mean, I'm a WWE lifer. I've been there. I've been a fan for a long time. But as a content creator, WWE content is the most watched content, the most clicked on content. Even though I think you guys should click on my AEW content, but the numbers show the numbers that as a business, it shows, man. Y'all don't really watch my AEW content as much as y'all should because you will learn a lot of information. Shameless plug. But like, yeah, man, I would definitely consider getting away from WWE content. Like I said, hopefully these people got backup pages. And like I said, if we go to AEW, start pushing AEW more, there'll be more opportunities for content creators through AEW. They'll actually let content creators eat. They'll give us more opportunities, and we can start a whole new wave. I mean, a lot of people not really down to do that. Hopefully, myself and other people could be the leaders of the new wave and make that happen. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, man. Like I said, I'm not even in the mood for this. This is no funny. This is very disheartening because I know what it's like to work hard and people who got more followers than me, because Instagram hard as hell to get followers. You know how hard it is to get real followers on Instagram, and they just take your shit away. They just snatch your shit, ban your shit, ban your content, saying you copywriting, and it's not true. If you're reacting to something and you're talking over the stuff, you're giving your own reaction. That's fair use. That's fair play. So you can't sit up here and say people stealing y'all stuff, but then y'all go ahead and use them for a reaction when they on a national level, and don't give them nothing. Not even their username is in the reaction. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section, man. Like, comment, subscribe, bro. I really feel for these people, bro. I hope none of my dogs get caught up in this, for real, for real. I'm about to reach out to a couple of people I know, and maybe even reach out to a couple of people who could face, these type of things. So I'm gonna be on the lookout for that, because I really don't want to see people gone, even if I don't interact with them or cool with them directly. Like I said, I know the work you put in. I know the grind, bro. I used to upload every day for like 6 months straight, my G. No breaks, bro. I know how I feel, bro. So, and now Triple H calling the cops on me. So let me get up out of here, man. See you guys later, man. Peace out.